Have you ever stood in the fruit section, looked at a grapefruit and thought, wait, why is this called grapefruit? It doesn't look like grapes. It doesn't taste like grapes. It doesn't even remotely behave like grapes. It's big, round, juicy, and sometimes painfully sour, while grapes are small, sweet, and snackable by the handful. Yet somehow, these two totally different fruits ended up sharing a name. And once you notice it, you can't unnotice it. It feels like one of those everyday mysteries hiding in plain sight. Today, we're going to uncover the surprisingly fascinating story behind why grapefruit is called grapefruit, where it really came from, how people first discovered it, and how a simple observation turned into a permanent name that stuck around for centuries, right here on History of Simple Things. The story of grapefruit doesn't begin in a laboratory or a royal garden. It begins in the Caribbean, specifically on the island of Barbados, sometime in the 1700s. Back then, citrus fruits were being moved around the world by traders and colonists. Oranges, lemons, limes, and pomelos were shipped from Asia to Europe and then to the Americas. In this global citrus exchange, something unexpected happened. A large fruit called the pomelo, originally from Southeast Asia, was brought to the Caribbean. At the same time, sweet oranges were already growing there. Nature, doing what it does best, allowed these two fruits to cross-pollinate naturally. No scientist planned it. No farmer designed it. It just happened. The result was a brand new hybrid fruit, what we now call the grapefruit. One of the earliest written records of this fruit comes from 1750, when a Welsh clergyman named Reverend Griffith Hughes described it in his book about Barbados. He referred to it as the forbidden fruit, possibly inspired by biblical imagery. Later, in the early 1800s, the fruit was officially classified by botanists as Citrus paradisi, which literally means citrus of paradise. This shows that early Europeans found the fruit exotic, beautiful, and special. But the everyday name grapefruit came from something much simpler. So if grapefruit isn't related to grapes, where did the name come from? The answer lies in how the fruit grows on trees. Unlike oranges or lemons, which often grow individually, grapefruits tend to grow in tight clusters. These clusters can look surprisingly similar to bunches of grapes hanging from a vine. Early farmers and observers noticed this resemblance. When they saw several round fruits packed closely together on a branch, it reminded them of grapes. So they began calling it grapefruit, meaning the fruit that grows like grapes. Over time, those two words merged into one, grapefruit. It wasn't about flavor, it wasn't about genetics, it wasn't about taste, it was purely about appearance. People were naming the fruit based on what it looked like on the tree, not what it tasted like on the tongue. And once the name became common in markets, farms, and shipping records, it stuck. Interestingly, in some parts of the world, grapefruit has different names. In Jamaica, it has sometimes been called shaddock, after a sea captain who introduced pomelos to the region. In some places, people also use the name pomelo or pomelo, which still causes confusion today. But to be clear, grapefruit and pomelo are not the same fruit. Pomelos are a separate original citrus species that are usually larger, thicker-skinned, and milder in taste. But in English-speaking countries, grapefruit became the dominant name. From a scientific perspective, grapefruit is a hybrid. It is not a pure species that evolved on its own. It is the result of a natural cross between the pomelo, Citrus maxima, and the sweet orange, Citrus sinensis. This explains why grapefruit has the size of a pomelo and some of the sweetness of an orange, mixed with its own sharp bitterness. That bitterness comes from compounds like naringin, which gives grapefruit its signature tangy, slightly medicinal taste. This is also why some people love grapefruit passionately, while others can't stand it. It's one of the most love-it-or-hate-it fruits in the world. There are also different varieties. White grapefruit tends to be more bitter. Pink and red grapefruits are sweeter and milder, thanks to natural pigments called carotenoids. These varieties were developed later through selective breeding, especially in the United States during the 1900s. Grapefruit didn't become popular overnight. For a long time, it was considered strange and exotic. But in the late 1800s and early 1900s, it started spreading from the Caribbean to Florida, Texas, and California. Farmers realized it grew well in warm climates and produced large harvests. By the early 20th century, grapefruit became a symbol of health and freshness. It was marketed as a diet fruit and a breakfast fruit. Hotels and restaurants began serving half a grapefruit with sugar on top as a standard morning dish. Advertisements promoted it as a way to stay slim, energetic, and modern. This is why, even today, many people associate grapefruit with classic breakfasts, old-fashioned diners, and healthy eating. So, why is it called grapefruit? Not because it tastes like grapes, not because it's related to grapes, but because long ago, someone looked up at a tree, saw clusters of round fruits hanging together and thought, "That looks like grapes." That simple observation turned into a name. That name spread across countries and generations, and centuries later we're still using it without thinking twice. Grapefruit is a reminder that many everyday words aren't carefully engineered. They're born from small moments, casual descriptions, and human creativity. And sometimes those accidental names last forever. So next time you cut open a grapefruit, sprinkle a little sugar on top and taste that sharp, refreshing bite, you'll know you're eating a fruit whose name comes not from science, but from someone's eyes looking up at a tree hundreds of years ago. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.